Hi there. I spend a whole day in the sun, and that's very tiring, but it's also really nice because I've been building an eco house, a house made out of straw bales, and we finished the living compartment. We don't put on the roof yet, but there is a roof on it because we decided to use insulating planks that we have as a top layer, and that works really well. So it was let's say, as a project, it amounted to getting the straw bales in the location, getting the planks and the wood and the screws and all that stuff, having somebody that was able to cut, had some let's say sewing materials and all that stuff, and go. And not everybody liked it the same way. Some people like to be very prepared, and I probably would also have. I completely understand it, but I also you know, some people want to work fast, and I think that sometimes you have to take it easy and simply take it organically. And because halfway, for instance, we found out that we were lacking about 6 straw bales to make the top layer of our straw bale walls, which are about 5 meters by 3.5 meters. So we had to look around, and it's a museum area, museum terrain in the warehouse and wherever we could, and we found a very big window, 2 meters by 1 meter 20, which exactly saved us about 8 straw bales. So we put that in, and that was fixed, but that of course required removing an existing wall that we already had very delicately put together, and it's just all very shabby. It's very during the building process, straw bales are just moving around, and you have to, at a certain point, you have to use wood and tension in order to press it together. And then, of course, if you do it professionally, then you make a base layer and you have these steel rods that you put through the bales, and you basically pin them down, and then you can also use straps or tie wraps or something like that in order to pin them together. But I like this, and the result is really nice. We were not going to finish it. We're not going to make it look very pretty inside outside, because it's only there for a week, and we don't have a permanent building permission. But we are now planning to build another straw bale house, a serious one. And actually, in order to make that, we'll have to buy a baling machine, an old-fashioned Dutch baling machine, because they're going out of fashion, they're going out of style, they're too labor intensive. You know, all this intensive farming, all this stuff, you have bigger bales, and they don't use it anymore. As we're doing that, which is for a renewable day, sustainability day, where we have all kinds of events, so we have a hydrogen car and a solar car, and we have biological wine, and we have electrical transport bike, and we have electrical taxis, and we have solar panels, of course, and solar concentrators, and we actually a very beautiful solar steam power water pump for Africa, all going to be put on there, and biomass collecting machines. We have all of these innovation going on in our country, and we simply invited these people, and they're going to showcase it. We were told that actually straw was really hard to get these days, and we were very lucky that we could buy our 80 bales of straw, and that the French are coming into Holland to get the grass for their cattle, and that's something that nobody talks about. It's the hidden famine that we're actually having already. It's the cattle famine. You could call it the cattle famine. 30% of all cattle will be slaughtered in Europe because of lack of food to get them through the winter. So maybe in the summer, when the grass is green, and actually there's plenty, but there's not enough grass and hay that can be collected in order to get these animals through the winter. So they're being slaughtered, a third of them. It's like, how would you like to hear, like, ladies and gentlemen, people, we are going to ask a third of you to kill yourself, because this winter the supermarket will be empty or less full, and we won't have food for all of you, And of course that won't happen, you know. And I guess you can recognize this food surplus, the food safety, security of a country by the number of obese people. In which case the US is pretty pretty well off, but of course they are, because they have the petrodollar still functioning actually. But if this would happen to directly affect food production for humans, then it would be a disaster. People would directly ask the relevant question, which is this a trend, or is this let's say an accident? Did two ships of grain sink in the middle of the Atlantic, or let's say did a volcano destroy agricultural land, the size of Ireland or something like that? I'm not sure. Or is it a trend? Is it a permanent reduction in productivity of land? And are we going to see another 30% of the cattle being slaughtered next year to get to the next winter? And I'm afraid that although there's things that you can do about it, so it's not a disaster, but you have to respond to it. I think there's one reason why you could say this is a permanent thing, because in the beginning of this year it was said that it's a weather pattern change due to jet stream changes, due to things happening around the North Pole. And the North Pole had a temperature anomaly of 12 degrees. And that's not going to change. It's not going to get colder all of a sudden around the poles, because that's black water now. It's absorbing heat. And so it's going to melt more and more and more. And that's what we see. We see that Greenland lost another part of a huge ice sheet, and scientists are shocked. It's like the real news item should say be like, scientists are armed and raiding corporate headquarters of Monsanto, Exxon and Shell in order to convey their message that we no longer want to live in their gas chamber. They have to shut down the gas. Entering the banks, saying, well, we no longer want you to be funding lobbyists or transferring fees and money for lobbyists or around the political system, so that it can be one big death camp and a death trap. Stop being the death cult. We don't want to die, basically. We are not in a hurry to die. There's such a lack of freedom to use human inventiveness to solve problems, because of course you can. And you can run. You can run all the material that you use, the infrastructure and etc. You run it on solar steam power or on ammonia, and it runs perfectly fine. So you can actually use renewables to completely reverse the damage and to completely repair the ecosystem. Already today it's possible. It's not being done. It's not being thought about. It's not being considered allowable, especially not in the US. That's where you basically are. Your president tells you, choke. In Dutch we do, that's like a curse. If you say stick, or stick it in, it's like choke on it, please. Drop that. That's what your president is saying. And actually what the Congress must be saying then. Because they're not standing up and saying, well, for the people of America, I'm sorry, not that 8% that will die next year due to lung diseases and air pollution or heat stroke or whatever. But for that 92% that will survive that ordeal, I will do nothing for you. That's my role in the Congress. I'm completely worthless. Let me say it again. I'm worthless in Congress. I'm Miss Pelosi, and I allow rich people to have their way in my country. Rich, unarmed people. How can that happen? Is everybody in politics on a death list? Are there mercenaries everywhere ready to assassinate any politician that decides that he will go against the rich? Or are there just too many politicians that are gullible, or not gullible but giddy with greed, in order to get a seat in the stadium or get a bigger car or a bigger house? Are they all so childish that they will kill everybody else or harm everybody else and basically put everybody on a train to Auschwitz? I basically came across this analogy a few days. I basically thought it up like we're in a gas chamber run by Exxon and Shell. And the more I think about it, the truer it sounds to me. It's a fact. Our Earth, it's not Cyclone B, it's carbon dioxide and methane. And eventually it will be hydrogen sulfide. And there's a couple of people in charge that do that, because they are allowed to do what they want, because the legal system basically abandoned us and decided that it would not capture corporations running around the globe, having their way in different legal systems. Anyway, way too random video. I'll make a video about the straw bales because I have footage of it, and I'll put a link to it on beneath this video. And really, if you have small straw bales that are workable, then you live in a dry area, then this is a really cheap way to build a house. Because we now are spending on this house, which is 5 by, I guess inside it would be 4 by 3 meters or something like that. That's not really big, but you can easily make it bigger, and we are actually plastering it partially, but we're spending about €1,000 on the whole thing, including the wood and the roofing, which is really nice. Made out of recycled car tires. Looks exactly like the stone that it's trying to mimic. Very perfect. But take a look, and I hope you find this interesting. Thanks for listening.